We are live. This is what happens when Blake sleeps too late. Joseph, see what happens when Blake sleeps too late, or goes to bed too late, I should say. But nevertheless, we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your hosts, Blake Ruffino. I'm joined by Joe DeLone. Joey, what's up?
Not much. I'm excited right now. My first bet of the week already hit last night with Florida State covering against Louisville. So I'm just juiced up to watch the rest of these games. I'm so in the weeds on betting. I put a North Dakota State bet to cover. I need to go ball on, man.
I'm with you. I took Florida State plus the 2.5 or minus the 2.5 last night. I got very worried when Jordan Travis went down. I was like, not again.
Yeah.
But what's crazy about that, Joe, is Florida State might be for real. I mean, look, everybody's like, oh, well, they only won by 4 against Louisville, but man, a win's a win.
Right.
You know, when you start compiling wins, it doesn't matter who you are. So I'm with you. Now, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's one of those things, too, where, yeah, you know, a win's a win, and they played sloppy. Like, they played really sloppy, and it wasn't like that.
They were on a bye week last week.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like they made all those mistakes and they were still able to pull off a win without your starting quarterback. Like that's a sign of a strong football program. And hopefully Jordan Travis comes back and the extent of the injury isn't too long term. I didn't see what the deal is with that. But no, I totally agree with you. That defense is really freaking good. I still say, and I've been saying since that LSU game, that Jared Verse is the real deal.
Yeah, he got injured. He didn't come back. I think that was a big blow for them. But look, LSU 2019, I'll just take it from an SEC perspective. Even Alabama and Georgia a season ago. Look, the best defensive team that we've seen probably in the last 10 years at Georgia got 40 hung up on them by Bama in the SEC championship game. You can lose games and still be a really good team.
Yeah.
And look, you can win close games. The name of the game is winning games. But we'll get to. I'm still not over this Florida State loss. You know, I think that you understand my pain being a Notre Dame man. I almost forgot until you brought it up before the show started.
Yeah, the Notre Dame Marshall loss, which I knew had to be addressed at some point. I was not only was I sweating things out during that Texas Alabama game, which I know we're going to talk about later, but my day was very ruined very, very quickly when Notre Dame lost to Marshall. And I was so upset that I hopped right on my YouTube channel and I put out a video saying that they need to fire Marcus Freeman. And that got a lot of run. I got like 5,000 views on it. And the comments were not very kind to me, Blake, but I still stand by that point. Despite the drinks that Jenna gave me that motivated me to say that, I still stand by that point because the reality of it, I was in on Marcus Freeman and he's done a great job recruiting. But like I point to like Kevin Sumlin, who was a great recruiter. Like that recruiting is half the battle. If you can't prepare your guys and rally them to play Marshall your first home game as a head coach, that's a problem. You're 0-3, the first Notre Dame coach to go 0-3. That is only a sign of things to come. And the one bit that kills me, Blake, is everyone points out, oh, Nick Saban lost to Southern Miss and he had a tough first season. Lou Holtz had a tough first season. Well, Ty Willingham and Charlie Weiss had really good first seasons at Notre Dame. So why am I suddenly like using previous guys' success or failures as an indicator? You can't rally against Marshall and you haven't won a game as a head coach. It's a problem.
Yeah, well, and when Saban lost to ULM at Bama, which Bama plays ULM today, which is kind of funny that we're talking about this. He lost to UAB at LSU. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things, but those programs had to be turned around. I will give the flip side of that, and then we'll get started in this SEC. Yeah. Urban Meyer took over Ohio State and went undefeated from a 6-6 team. Okay, so if you had look, it's not like Marcus Freeman took over a team that was bad. There's no reason you should be losing to Marshall. No reason. You have multiple first-round guys on offense and defense. There's no reason, and quite honestly, they're playing like ass. So. Look, they can't bust a grape up front, which is a huge problem. So look, you're going to hate me saying this, and I'm not saying this because I cover and love LSU. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, no.
Brian Kelly can. This is what great head coaches do, though.
Yeah.
So, as an example, late in games like a week ago with Nick versus Sarkisian, Bama versus Texas, you coach your way and help your team to that win. I just don't think Marcus, like a Brian Kelly, has that experience yet. So for that reason alone, that obviously is going to make Brian Kelly a little bit better. He's got the experience. He's been doing this since 1962. I mean, the Cuban Missing Crisis was happening literally when your boy was at Grand Valley State. I mean,
yeah, it's a good point that you need that experience. And I even saw somebody say in the chat, he's a great defensive coordinator. He's a fantastic defensive coordinator, and he's going to be a really strong defensive-minded coach, and that's been the best part of this team. Al Golden and him have prepared that defense really, really well. But all those late game situations, he has no experience, and that's what's going to cause you to lose. And if you can't, again, rally your team in a late game spot against Marshall, who is a Sun Belt team, they are what they are. They're not
a hell of a week. They had a hell of a week.
Yeah, which is crazy. But it's the Sun Belt. They shouldn't be beating Power 5 teams.
True.
That is an indicator of ineptitude rather than a positive for the Sun Belt.
One thing, and we're going to get to Dane Bergeron super chat here out of the break, but let me just say this: you cannot lose to a team that's a mascot that is a mythical character from Zelda. I mean, what is the Thundering Herd? Like you can't lose to, like, if LSU lost today, you lost to a Bulldog. Okay, well, maybe a Bulldog just had a really good day. You beat a Tiger, whatever. But a mythical character that's not even real. I will tell you this: I thought it was savage when the dude from Marshall scored in the end zone and he started doing this. That was pretty savage.
You can probably imagine how mad I was when I saw that.
I can only imagine. Now we got to get into.
Yep.
Auburn versus Penn State today, LSU versus Mississippi State, and obviously the big one of the night, A&M versus Miami. Max Johnson, I reported this on Tuesday and nobody believed me, and I got ridiculed on Twitter. I had heard through the grapevine, with some LSU stuff and connections, that Max Johnson would be starting today, and he is. A&M announced that yesterday that he'll be starting, so we'll get into that as well. And we have a lot of great guests as well. We'll be doing Jenna drinks at 10:15. Former Penn State quarterback Matt McGloin from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Oh, we're going to talk about that. Bleav in Vikings host and former first-round pick to the Vikings from Miami, Bryant McKinnie joins us at 9:30. So we have a lot to get into and a lot of great guests here today. But you know what we got to do? We do have to talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag and our good friends over at GM Varno & Sons. So, Joe, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. Let's get this thing started. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share. So many of you are watching us live right now. Hit the like, hit the share. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I've been giving out shirts and money, Joe, for people who have been sharing. Share the stream, you Rudy Poos. All right. And do all that stuff. But let's pay these bills, and then we'll get started done better than our good friends over at betonline.ag and our good friends over at GM Varno & Sons. Joe, we return in a minute. Don't get drunk. Did I get you depressed?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay, because Notre Dame lost to
get drunk. We got like 2 minutes. How quickly do you think it takes you to get drunk?
Well, last week, the last thing I remember is you drunk a Long Island iced tea, a short Island iced tea.
I had 3 of those. That was kind of a problem. Start a long day.
We return in a minute. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events, with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code Bleav50, that's Bleav50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. With over 65 years of experience, nobody is better equipped to service in your vehicle than GM Varno & Sons. RV repair, big rig overhauls, motor chassis, routine maintenance, tire rotations, tire sales, No job is too big or too small over at GM. If you break down the side of the road in the greater Baton Rouge area, they will come and get you. And the best thing about that is that they can come and get you, and then they can bring your vehicle back to their shop and start the repairs right then. Again, GM Varno & Sons. Go see them over at 2500 Fuller Boulevard. Give them a call at 225-664-9992. 225-664-9992. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino sent you on by. So, I almost killed every Texas fan last week because I thought that they were going to win that game. Now, Joe, I had a drink and I put my foot in my mouth. Everybody hit the like and share. We're getting this thing started. Joe, how scared were you last week? So if you missed it, Joe bet Josh that he would get a tattoo of a Longhorn on his arse if Texas beat Alabama. They only won by a point. How bad were you sweating that out, buddy?
Yeah, first of all, that was a sober decision when I made that bet. So there was no alcohol involved in that decision. It was the week prior, just some friendly talking during the week prior about how bad Texas was. And I made the mistake of meeting up with Josh after he came on and did that tirade at the end of the show with like 20 Texas fans. And I was already a couple drinks deep. So I alerted all of them of the bet. So by the third quarter, they were all on my ass. They were all on me. And so not only was I annoyed watching this game, but on top of that, I was getting everybody in my ear. Like, oh man, you're going to go get that tattoo. You're going to have to go get that tattoo. So like I pulled myself away for that like final couple drives. And Josh and Alex were making fun of me because I was so just like watching, pissed off. Like, I swear to God, if they don't pull this thing out. But thankfully they didn't. I didn't get a Longhorn tattoo on my ass. The biggest thing though I was worried about, and I said this in the last show, I had my girlfriend texting me and she's like, I can't believe you made this bet. Like you're like, I'm sweating this out probably more than you are. Like, it's so against tattoos, but thankfully I didn't have to get one.
Well, I put my foot in my mouth and said the same thing, but I told Joe during the game, I was texting you the whole time. I was like, look,
backed out.
I'm not getting a tattoo on my arse. I already got a couple, like dumb decision ones,
Yeah, but you've already got the tattoos, so like
my wife would shoot me in the ear, like she would kill me. Let me get to the super chat very quickly from Dane Bergeron. He said, I love the show the other night with Brandon Taylor. Brandon Taylor's a former LSU defensive back, wore number 18. He was the best part of those 2 seasons with the post-game shows. He was spot on and unapologetic with his analysis. Yeah. So, Joe, the other night we had on my a guy I grew up with that played at LSU, Brandon Taylor. He's going to be the team captain for tonight's LSU game.
Wow.
So we'll get into that. Look, we grew up together. So I have a funny story. We'll share at a later time. But about Les Miles, the day that LSU found out they were going to the BCS national title game against Ohio State, Les Miles went on an official visit at Brandon's house, and I was there. And Les got out of the car and said, we're going to the Natty. We're going to the Natty. So look, he got out the car with his hat. He was wearing it like this. He's like, the Taylor family. We're going to the national title and we're going to beat their ass. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Dude, that's when I started reporting shit. That's when the whole legend started, because my dumb ass went on Facebook and said, we're going to the Natty, bitches. Okay. And so everybody's like, how do you know? I'm like, I just know. I just spoke with Les. They're like, no, you didn't. 20 minutes later, I'm posting with a picture with him. Okay. If Twitter would have been a thing back then, I probably would have gotten banned. For
over-reporting or for
over-reporting, because I was going nuts. Okay. We got Jared. We do got a couple of the comments I do want to get to. We have Eric Weinberger says, good morning, boys.
Let's go,
Joe and Ruffino. And then we got Jared Wilson popping in here. Says, LSU winning tonight. I'm with you, Blake. I hope so. So let's get into some of this, Joe. We're going to talk Auburn, Penn State. Okay. We're going to talk about them with Matt McGloin. We're going to talk about Miami and A&M. So we're going to kind of keep some of those bigger games and talk to them with our guests. Let's do a little bit of a review, though. We talked about Miami and Texas. Texas and Alabama last week. I think everything that we knew about Alabama and their weaknesses came to fruition last week. They got physically dominated up front. Now that you could take a step back and relieve that you don't have to get anything on your ass, pause. But what was your analysis of that game? Is Alabama in serious trouble here?
I don't think they're in serious trouble because, as we all know, Nick Saban is a mastermind. And if he needs to figure out a way to transition the offensive approach for this team, he's going to find out a way. But the big issue that they have right now, they don't have any receivers. Jahmyr Gibbs was the one who was getting all their receptions, and he's a great running back. There were not a lot of rushing lanes for him, but it's kind of a problem that none of those receivers, there's no outside help. There's no deep threat like they had in the past. Jameson Williams and John Mechie are no longer there, and nobody has stepped up, even in the slightest bit. If they don't figure that out, yes, they are going to be in trouble, because when you have to face off against Georgia, whose secondary is littered with five-star recruits, Keely Ringo is going to have himself a day going against that Alabama passing attack. They need to figure that out.
I think this is the thing that got me the most. The fact that they had 15 penalties and 100 yards. I've never seen a Nick Saban team, college, LSU, Miami, Michigan State. Never have I seen a Nick Saban team that undisciplined. That is a bigger problem to me than anything. Look, their interior offensive line is dookie right now. They can't bust a grape. Look, so I went and looked at it. Outside of the long run that McKinney had, they're running the ball for 2 yards a pop. Okay, you can't win games like that. Now, the opposite side of that is this. How good is Texas? Because the truth is, they have a lot of talented dudes on the – look, they recruited a very high level. They had 2 five-star freshmen on the offensive line. Outside of the sack there at the end, Will Anderson was a non-factor, which then goes to show – look, and Joe, we get in these Twitter spaces, and people argue me all the time, who's the better player or who's more important, Will Anderson or Bryce Young? Well, if you think that Will Anderson's the best player in the country because he's the most impactful, you're wrong. Bryce Young was the reason that they won that football game because, look, you're going into the second to last drop with 5 drops. Mm-hmm. 5 drops. He had to lead them down for the victory. I just think that Will Anderson was kind of a non-factor, and this team's going to go Bryce is going to have to be magical, man, and I just don't know if he has enough magic to get them over the hump in the SEC. Now, I will say this. Tennessee played Pitt last week, and I don't know how to really gauge Pitt, but Tennessee can score. And if you can't go blow for blow with them and score for score with them, is there a situation where Tennessee could beat Alabama?
Oh, man. I haven't even thought that far, and it's a really good point because they look like they're as good as they can possibly be offensively. Hendon Hooker, I love Hendon Hooker, and Cedric Tillman are just a really nice pairing right now. They might be one of the best pairings that we have between a quarterback and a receiver in the SEC out of anyone that I can think of. But, to your point, that was against Pitt, though. Like, how
reigning
competent
ACC champions, though.
Yeah, but that Pitt team's not the same Pitt team that it was last year. Like, they got one good defensive guy in Kalijah Cansey who's really freaking good, but like the rest of that defense is a little suspect. I think that matchup's going to be a lot different because it's hard to compare Pitt's defense and Alabama's defense. But it would almost, for Alabama to win that football game, they might need to slow down the pace of the game and try to establish the run. Like, that's going to need to be the identity, which feels like such a 2014 Alabama approach because they've got a lot of really good running backs. Like, that's where the strength is if they can get some freaking blocking.
I agree with you there. That's not the same Pitt team. I was surprised by Tennessee. Anytime you go on the road and come back and win, we'll see there. Okay. We'll like you said, we'll see. Here's my only thing with Bama. And I say this to my viewers all the time. I hate playing the what if game, but I was pretty shocked by Quinn Ewers. The mullet in hand. I didn't think he would be good enough to lead them the way that he did early in that game. And Hudson Card. I mean, look, they got talent in Texas. I'm not 1,000% sold, if healthy, that Texas doesn't win the Big 12. if they're healthy, but they're not healthy. So we'll have to wait and see. Let me transition to this because we talked about Tennessee and Pitt, which made me think of them. So let's go to them, and then we'll start getting into some of these reviews this week. I was wrong about, Anthony Richardson. We'll get to that too. Look, Tennessee, I don't think can beat Georgia, but I do think that they could hang with Alabama. Let me ask you this question. How good of a coach is Josh Heupel? Because I'm blown away by some of the things they do offensively. Like, just absolutely blown away. And the thing about him, a lot like what Mike Leach is doing, we'll talk about this today too. They're kind of slowing it down just a little bit to get the running game going. When you could do that and you could score points, Joe, the sky's the limit how good this team can do. Look, for me, and I don't know about you, a 9-win Tennessee team is a good team. Yeah. Like, it's a good team for them. What I know we previewed it, but what do you think about Tennessee? Can they be the second team in the West or in the East? Excuse me.
I think very easily, and we've seen them not necessarily tested, but that Pitt game is the first real test that they get the opportunity to play in this season, and it really helps. You're talking about that offense when you have a quarterback like Hendon Hooker who can throw the ball deep and take shots. Like, he's got a nice arm. He's a fantastic athlete. And I said this going into the season that I thought Hendon is one of the most under talked about quarterbacks in the SEC and deserves a lot more hype. He, not far off from maybe being the second best quarterback in the SEC right now. If we take a look at the entire landscape, he's looking better than Anthony Richardson did last week. And he's looked better than Will Levis, who looks really, really messy. Helps that he's been around since, 2000. Yeah, he's been around so long.
It's Scranton, Pennsylvania. Speaking of Matt McGloin.
But he's been around so freaking long, so it helps having that experience. To your point, though, about Heupel, man, I love Josh Heupel, and I said when he came in that he is going to turn that program around. He's a creative offensive coach. He's rallying his guys, and you see a little bit more swagger coming from that Tennessee team, which they haven't had from any of the previous coaches. No swagger, no juice, like that you kind of hoped you would have gotten with Lane Kiffin. But this team's got a lot of energy, and I think that they have what it takes to go shot for shot with any of these teams in the SEC.
It definitely is going to come down to Tennessee and Kentucky, in my opinion, for that second spot in the East. And speaking of them, look, the three teams of Tennessee, Kentucky, and Florida, I got to admit, I was dead wrong, I guess, on Anthony Richardson. He had a rough day. But the thing that I think people need to understand this too, Billy Napier is a horrible coach playing from behind. He was the same at Louisiana. They're not efficient enough in the passing game and how he tries to call things enough for them to look, Utah was different because they could run the football and gain a crap load of yards. That's Billy Napier's forte. When you can run the football, they're going to beat a lot of people. When they can't, Joe, and they have to completely go to a situation where they're having to throw the football to win the game and Will Levis is dropping dimes. Look, I got to be honest. I'm out on Will Levis. I was out on Will Levis because at SEC Media Days, he put mayonnaise in his coffee and started stirring it.
That's why?
Yes, that is disgusting. That man should be in federal prison. That's so disgusting. But nevertheless, I still think he leads Kentucky and Tennessee to an outright battle for the SEC East, outside or second in the SEC East, because nobody's beating Georgia. But the way I want to say about this, man, we got a lot of quarterbacks in the SEC. So I say all that, but I don't feel confident in it, Joe, because there are really good quarterbacks in this league.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of really good quarterbacks across this league. And I just want to backtrack a little bit on Levis. I'm not necessarily out on him because he, separate from the mayonnaise and the coffee thing, I think he still has first round talent and somebody's going to take him in the first round because of the talent. He's just not all there. And I think that Josh Allen comparison is still in play.
So awful. He's not a better runner than Josh Allen. They need to stop with that.
But in terms of his potential and what he can be and how far along they both were in their last seasons at their colleges, because nobody watched Josh Allen at Wyoming. Nobody paid attention to him because he was at Wyoming.
Didn't he
go
he
sucked.
53% complete? Yeah, I mean,
he sucked. He was terrible. And Levis is in the same situation now where he's not completing any of his passes. He's making mistakes. Doesn't really have any receivers. So he might look like crap, but he's like a hero ball guy. He's like Richardson. And I'm also not out on Richardson either. I had the sense that we're going to get a lot of these up and down games from Richardson. I still think that he can.
I agree.
The book might be out on him on maybe winning the Heisman, but he is a capable guy to have those Heisman moments. Like he's going to have another game against a big team where he shows up and plays the way he did against Utah. And then the following week, he's going to lay an egg and play like absolute crap. He's just not experienced enough. If you neutralize him and you bottle him up and play really good contain, that's where he's going to make his mistakes. That's where he's going to get flustered and he's going to have those turnovers, those issues that we saw in the Kentucky game. But he's good enough to take over football games still.
I said this in week 1 and Bleav clipped it and put it out there, and I got absolutely roasted in Gainesville. Outside of Anthony Richardson, their team is subpar and average. Okay.
Yeah.
They will go as he goes. Defensive line, look, they're overweight, they're out of shape. And ask the AYS listeners, I never say that about big men. You can't be huffing and puffing in midway through the second quarter, Joe. You can't do it. When you start doing that, Mark Stoops in his red, he got beat red. I thought I was looking at the Grinch in human form. He started smirking and laughing because he knew he had him. Now, I will say this. I think Mark Stoops is the most underrated coach in the country. I don't know how you feel, but for me, you're winning 8, 9, 10 games in the SEC each year. At what point is people going to start putting Mark Stoops on this pedestal like, hey, look, he doesn't have enough talent to where he'll ever get over the top of Kentucky, but, man, nobody wants to play him.
The funny thing with him, with Mark Stoops, is like he always gets brought up when there's coaching vacancies.
Search, right.
Yeah, but the guy's never going to leave. The guy's never going to leave Kentucky. He has the best job in the country where they have so many incentives for just
Football
being
school.
It's a basketball school. So they just want like a decent product out there that looks good for the basketball fans and the basketball boosters to watch and be entertained by. As long as he wins like 9, 10 games every season, my guy's sitting pretty. Why would he go somewhere else where his job security, like if he hypothetically went to LSU, people would be calling for his job if like they were with Brian Kelly after the Florida State loss. People are just happy they're winning football games. People are excited. I totally agree, though. Mark Stoops has never gotten the credit I feel that he has really deserved. He is always going to rally and prepare his teams to beat those average to above average SEC programs. I don't think that they're ever going to be capable of competing with Alabama or Georgia or Tennessee for that matter. I just, the talent on the roster is not there. And there is always going to be recruiting limitations because it's Kentucky.
Last team before we do this week's preview, the Arkansas Razorbacks. Okay. Joe, I have no idea what to make of them. I have no idea whatsoever in the world. I got to tell you something. I don't think that they have enough offensively. Okay. I don't think that they have enough weapons offensively. If they get in a shootout, they're in trouble. Okay. And people are probably asking, well, Blake, they beat Cincinnati. They scored a lot of points. Well, Blake, they beat South Carolina last week. Joe, I know what I'm looking at. South Carolina's not good, and Cincinnati does not have a lot of weapons either. I don't know what to make of Arkansas. They can run the football with the best of them. I guess, what is your thoughts on Arkansas so far?
It's kind of a similar but dumbed down situation to what Alabama's dealing with right now, where you've got a really, really good veteran quarterback in KJ Jefferson, but who's he going to throw the football to? If you have to move the ball through the air and pick up huge chunk yards and try to kill guys deep, you don't have Treylon Burks anymore. Burks was a weapon for them last year, and KJ is still a really good quarterback, but you saw in that Cincinnati game where there's a lot of him having to hold on to the football. They always loved using him as an added runner with a lot of those like quarterback power plays that they would run. But you can't be doing that every single game, every single down. Like he's going to get hurt if you're running those read option plays all the time. That can only take you so far. They're another team that needs to find their identity and find some weapons. It does help that they're pretty good defensively. But those receiving issues that you pointed out, 100% problematic. The one advantage that they have over Alabama, though, is that offensive line is still fantastic across the board. Is might be the best offensive line in the SEC right now.
I don't think that there's a question that they are the best offensive line, but KJ's got to get the ball out quicker, in my opinion. He's got to be more decisive. That's just me. Okay. We are waiting for Bryant McKinnie. So look, we'll continue to talk Joe until he gets in here. And if not, then we'll get to Matt McGloin at 9. When was Matt coming on? I apologize. 9:45.
No, he's coming on at 10 CT.
10. Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's do this. I want to transition. Let's recap Texas A&M, and then in that same breath, transition into this week against them at Miami. Joe, I joke around a lot, and a lot of the fans know, a lot of people know, but I'm about to be dead serious. Haynes King is ass. He is horrible, and he's not ready. Now, does he have the ability in a couple of seasons to be a really good quarterback? I Bleav so. You can't teach what he does with his legs. He still has a really big arm. Bottom line is, right now, he's not ready. Okay, and that's not a Joe. When people say stuff like that, that's not a something bad. I still think he's going to be a good quarterback. You can't get beat by Appalachian State at home. You just can't. And I know, and I'm sure your feelings you were talking about earlier with Notre Dame are going to come out here. But I will tell you this: you just can't be the number 6 team in the country and lose to that team. So let's talk about the review. And then let's preview them with Texas A&M and Miami coming up tonight at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it's great that they're now transitioning to Max Johnson. And that was what I had talked about the entire week leading in, was if they get Max Johnson in maybe by the second quarter, if they decide to still start Haynes King and things are sputtering early, they have the edge in this game. Texas A&M does. And now he's the starter. He's going to be starting this game. I'm very, very in on them. To your point on Haynes King, he's a 4.4 athlete that just can't throw the damn ball. And it's like, how often are we going to allow, if you're a team like Texas A&M, a guy who can't play the quarterback position to just run around and make mistakes? It's much better, as we've seen, to have a quarterback that is at least going to be consistent, isn't going to hit a home run rushing play, isn't going to pick up like a 50-yard gain because he scrambles and plays like Johnny Manziel and makes a bunch of crazy moves on defenders. That's nice to watch, but if it doesn't net results, it's better to have the guy that's moving the offense 5, 6, 7 yards at a time. Mm-hmm. That's how you win football games. But a lot needs to be done with this play calling, because that offensive approach is so freaking outdated. It hasn't worked since Jimbo's time at Florida State, and he's been calling the same crap. They need to make a transition. Maybe he needs to hand off the play calling duties. Maybe he needs a new offensive coordinator. I don't know exactly what needs to be done there, but they are seriously hampered not only by King, but the offensive play calling.
Well, number one, Jimbo treats this, and look, being in coaching clinics and hearing some of his play calling. Look, Joe, I mean, it's too complicated. Okay, this isn't the NFL, buddy. Like, you don't need to go X. Trips Y X. I'm trying to say something, but it's been so damn long. But trips right excellent, Z motion, spider 2Y banana. You don't need to do all that. Hey, Joe, let me tell you, there are a lot of coaches that do play cards. Do a play card with them. If Jimbo, if your excuse is that the guys are sometimes not picking up the offense, well, then do something. Now, Joe, I'm going to say this. We've seen a lot of times in baseball, we see Vandy pitchers going with wristbands, going with watches. Okay? Don't let the signals get mixed up. You're too good of a team to have that happen. Don't be a dummy. Okay? Let me tell you something. Jimbo's the type of coach that really ticks me off because he's got the talent. He's got the talent. You have to be able to get your guys ready to go and understand what's happening. I agree with you with this. He's got to turn over play calling, or he's got to get more innovative. That is the ultimate thing. The big thing here is, and there's something that's really shocking me. Number one, or shocked me last week, they got physically just manhandled. okay, up and down the field. How do they respond to that? Okay. The reason I bring this up, and by the way, I picked App State to cover last week. I think, what was it?
Did you really?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I had 21.5 points on App State. I tell you what, I took that game in June when the lines started coming out.
Wow.
I took that game in June, 21.5. I felt so great because here's the thing. If you go back and look at Jimbo always starts off slow, then they start hitting a stride mid-tier through the season and then late into the season. This is the most interesting thing and why people who trash Max Johnson sometimes don't know what they're talking about. Buddy, they're a 6-point favorite against Miami today at home. At home. Are you like me? When I saw that line come out, I was absolutely just shocked. Let me ask you this, Joe. What am I not seeing? What am I not seeing?
I'm not shocked, and it's less to do for Texas A&M and says more about Miami. I have never been in on Miami this year. I think Miami is the most overrated team right now in the top 25, easily without a doubt. And it all starts with the hype for Tyler Van Dyke, their quarterback, that started at the beginning of the season. I watched the kid. I watched his film. I evaluated him as a prospect. The guy sucks. His arm is middling. His decision-making, go watch his Florida State tape from last year. I'm serious. And all those
3
issues.
picks, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's not like he's some tactile genius back there. It's one of those guys you watch and you're like, what is he thinking? Why is he forcing the ball into double coverage? Why is he forcing the ball into a spot where there's clearly a defender? Those mistakes have shown up in the first 2 weeks where they played Southern Miss and Bethune-Cookman, and he's turning the ball over. His completion percentage isn't that good. He's not a good quarterback. And I think that the sports books realize that this team is overrated. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think Texas A&M needs to get their crap together. But to me, I see this as a get-right game. This is like a 10-point win for Texas A&M, a game where they get their feet underneath them. Max maybe a little slow to get going, but he starts to get into a rhythm. Not going to be high scoring. And we're going to watch Tyler Van Dyke make mistake after mistake after mistake because he's overrated and he actually has to face some talented defensive backs like Antonio Johnson.
So I go in these Twitter spaces a lot. It's just kind of what I do. It's how we've helped build our brand and stuff like that. I probably need to get out of them. But the one thing, sometimes those Twitter spaces can be toxic.
Oh, I know.
Okay. So Miami fans are probably the most obnoxious on Twitter. I mean, absolutely
delusional.
They believe they're going 12-0. Now, let me tell you something. I've never rooted for a Texas A&M team, but I got to tell you, I'm rooting for them today because I cannot stand the crap that we had to put up with all offseason from Miami fans. They think they're back. They think they're winning the ACC. They think they're getting in the playoff. Well, what does it say about you that Vegas has you as a 6-point dog right now? Okay, they don't have a lot of faith in you. And to a really kind of mid-tier average Texas A&M team. Look, this game's going to be one up front. The one thing that worries me about Miami, Joe, is this. They're not big on the interior of the offense or defensive line. They got pushed around last week against Southern Miss. Now, so did Texas A&M. I don't know what to make of this game. I could see it going either way, if I'm being honest. Now, I took A&M in the money line. I didn't take them with the points. I think they pull it out because here's the thing. I need to see Miami actually beat somebody because you struggle with a half against Southern Miss. Southern Miss is just not as good of a team as Appalachian State is. You would have lost. Bro, here's the truth, too. Appalachian State would have beat Miami last week just like they beat A&M last week.
100%.
So, there comes a point with me where, well, look, man, Southern Miss isn't just – they're not that great. They didn't even have a starting quarterback to start their season. They had to go get like a fifth-year transfer guy. So it is what it is. Let me ask you this, though. Do you think Jimbo's on the hot seat?
No, because unlike Marcus Freeman, he at least has a track record. He's got the recruits that are already coming in. He has multiple really good recruiting classes, and he at the very least can point to the Alabama game last year. Like he can say, like, hey, this is what I did. As long as he rallies like a 9-win team, I don't think he's on the hot seat. If they struggle and they're a sub 500 team, or maybe they're just a 7-win team, then we can start having the conversation for next year, him being on the hot seat. But he's been around long enough. He's got enough goodwill, if you will, that he's built up because he's been there and he's done some things. But it doesn't hurt to start the conversation. That App State loss is embarrassing when you're supposed to be one of the top SEC programs, a team that was supposed to compete with Alabama and Georgia this year, and they have not been able to do so.
My 4 overrated teams coming into the season. You're going to get mad at me, and when you remember this, because we had a debate.
Yeah, I know who one of them is.
Notre Dame.
Yep.
Texas A&M.
Okay.
Miami, and who's the fourth one? I forget who the fourth one was.
USC.
No, I ain't put it. Braun would kill me. I'm staying away from USC. It was Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, A&M, Notre Dame. It was Pittsburgh. I had Pittsburgh.
Okay. Okay.
I got to be honest. I feel pretty vindicated after week 2. But here's the crazy thing. I think that those teams, I think A&M wins today. Okay. I think Notre Dame wins today. Now, Notre Dame is playing Cal.
Oh, it's going to be a 7-3 nail biter. That's going to be the final score.
I'm going to tell you something you're not going to like.
Go ahead.
Buckner being out might be the best thing for him.
Drew Pine's not very good either. They're not going to put any points up. They're going to maybe score 10 points.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
They're also wearing the stupid green jerseys after they lost to Marshall. Like there's some hot team.
Does Tommy Rees need to go?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the first step that you need to take. And I don't mean to take us down a Notre Dame rabbit hole, but he has always hampered that offense, and it's had 5-star talent, first-round talent across the board the entire time he's been there, and they've never been a 30-point offense like they're capable of being. They've always struggled, and this is to the fullest form. If you're going to get rid of someone, they're probably going to give Marcus Freeman a couple years. You fire Tommy Rees now, you get him out now, you at least have something to point to and say, like, hey, this is the reason why we're messing up. And maybe you can get a little hope stirring for the alumni and the boosters if you bring in some talented whiz kid to run the offense.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you this about Notre Dame and I'm being serious. I'm not really joking around because I'm being serious when I ask these questions, like no joking, because we're gonna transition to LSU and Mississippi State, and obviously Brian Kelly at LSU. Joe, looking back on it now, does the Notre Dame fan base feel like that Brian Kelly was holding back Tommy Rees?
No, I feel like I haven't seen a lot of that. When you say holding back, what do you mean by that?
Well, so and not trying to get into this, but there's obviously some people that cover Notre Dame that don't like me very well.
Yes,
who
we've established that.
who have said and have come on my show twice and has told me on AYS that Brian Kelly held back Tommy Rees. Okay, that's the sentiment that I get from Notre Dame fans. But what it seems to me, though, Joe, is Brian Kelly's not doing that to Denbrock and at LSU. They're full-blown tempo, spread, throw it around. Joe, they legitimately have gone full RPO spread. Now, they're maybe not so much RPOs in the second game. I guess my question would just ultimately be, is this on Brian Kelly from this offense now that you see Tommy Rees? That's the kind of the question I'm trying to get to, if that makes sense.
Yes, I now I understand what you're saying. I do believe that there was a lot of influence with Brian Kelly. I think that he acknowledged that Tommy Rees is a young play caller and he needed to reel him in a little bit. And he needed to it's the opposite of that. He needed to open him up a little bit, because now we're seeing this stupid, ultra conservative offensive approach where they're running the ball on inconsequential downs. They're throwing all these screens that don't really set up for anything. There is no aggressive attempt to stretch the field. I think there was a lot of influence from Brian Kelly, and it showed up from time
in the
to time.
opposite way is what you're saying.
Right. And I think that now that you allow, because you've got two young 30-year-old guys in Tommy Rees and Marcus Freeman running the team, they're not stepping on each other's toes, and Freeman doesn't want to step on his toes because he's the guy who's been there longer, and he's a representative of the program, and he was the starting quarterback there in the early 2010s. He's got no one to hold him accountable, and they look like crap.
So now that leads me to transition to LSU. 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 So why aren't you cheering with me, brother?
I'm not cheering for LSU. Why would I be? I'm not an LSU fan.
Because you're your former head coach. Notre Dame's daddy.
No, I'm a FAMU fan now. Now that I've given up on Notre Dame. That's why I'm wearing the shirt. That's who I root for.
Oh, you're a FAMU guy now. Okay.
I'm not transitioning to LSU. That doesn't work like that. I can't just go running back to Brian Kelly. What are we doing here?
Well, I think that you should. All right, let's get to this Mississippi State LSU game. Okay. Joe, I'm gonna let you go first. I've talked about this all week, and I'll just give you the floor first because I don't want my opinions to sway you in any which way. What do you think about Mississippi State and LSU?
Will Rogers, I've never been a very big fan of, admittedly.
Okay.
I feel as though, like all of these Mike Leach quarterbacks, it's so easy to inflate the expectations on them. If you actually watch them and you watch Will Rogers, he's an average starting college quarterback. I think LSU, this is the game for them to lose. Like this is a very winnable, easily winnable game. And now that they're transitioning past that FSU loss, like they need to come out firing. They need to come out guns blazing. I know that there is still some question marks about, like, is Jaden Daniels really the guy? Like, do they need to keep rolling with him? Mike Leach has never had good defensive teams. And I think that this could be an opportunity for the LSU offense to start to really get into rhythm, to really start to feel themselves. Because if you look at that Mississippi State defense, like, who do they have? Like, there's no dudes on that defense. LSU is the far more well-rounded team. The only main thing that Washington State has going for them is Mike Leach and that ability to just pull points out of their ass whenever they need to. But no, I fully believe, and I'm sure that you're in the same boat, that this is an extremely winnable game for LSU.
I think number one is a very winnable game. I've called it all week a program turner, not a program changer, because you can't be second in the country in national titles in the last 20 years and think that you need a complete overhaul, right? Like, if you've established who you are in LSU, you don't need a changer. You just need to turn the ship a little bit and get it back on course. I will say this. It is of my personal opinion that this is Mike Leach's best defense that he's ever had. Going back to Texas Tech. Look,
yeah. What does that really mean, though? That's the thing.
Here's the thing about Mississippi State, though, and it's not all of his guys. They're every third or fourth year, Mississippi State pulls out of their ass guys like Montez Sweat, who goes in the first round. Tyrus Wheat, I talked about this week. I've known Tyrus Wheat, their outside linebacker defensive end, since he was 7. Okay. He's from Amite, Louisiana. My mom taught him in the 7th grade.
Wow.
Okay. Tyrus Wheat is 250 pounds, and I know for a fact runs a 4.5 40. Okay. The point is, they got some dudes on that defensive line, and they're very exotic. Now, LSU's offensive line is going to be a worry this week. Now, we have a message board, and if people were subscribed to that AYS message board, AYSSnetwork.com, they would have found out last night that there may be some shuffling along LSU's offensive line. With that being said, I think that, look, I betted on LSU. I took the plus 2.5. I don't feel good about it, Joe. I think that, look, I need to see LSU get back to the point where they're LSU. Now, the fans hate when I say that. They want me to go out here and say LSU's going to win every week. Well, I do want them to win every week, but we have to be realistic. The ultimate question will be this. Can LSU bust a grape running the football? Because if they can't run the football, it's going to be a long day for Jaden Daniels. The changer for me in this, and I think the thing that's going to put LSU over the top and win, Louisiana people are pissed off. And when they get pissed off, that stadium starts to fill. And when you start getting 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and people start yelling and people start screaming, they did this for Auburn a season ago because they thought that LSU can turn the tide and get back to their winning ways. And talking to this fan base, and look, they had 200,000 people at tailgating and at the game last week against Southern. Southern. Okay? They're pissed. I think that crowd, if stayed in tune and a close game, is going to lead LSU to a late turnover and they win a game. But I don't think it's a blowout. The thing that the thing with Brian Kelly that I got to give him so much credit for, he's got a 5-star quarterback in Walker Howard that's a freshman. He had Miles Brennan, he had Garrett Nussmeier, but he went and got Jaden Daniels. The thing with me, Joe, is the coaches before here, Les Miles, I guess you could say Ed Orgeron because he went and got Joe Burrow. We just haven't seen a long consistency of LSU getting dynamic quarterbacks. I think he's the reason you win, and I think he's going to be the only reason you win a lot of these games because he's so dynamic. I say that, your rebuttal and your response.
The funny thing about Jaden Daniels, and again, as somebody who watched so much of Brian Kelly, he's like the total Brian Kelly quarterback. Great athlete, moves well in the pocket, throws on the run really freaking well, is going to be able to extend those plays and add a lot to your offense. And he might be one of the better, actually, quarterbacks that Brian Kelly's coached. Like I look at all the guys that he's had, maybe outside of Deshaun Kaiser, he might be one of the second best quarterback that he's coached.
Well, that's a big statement.
Right, because who else has Notre Dame really had? Like I've watched Everett Golson and Tommy Rees and Malik Sayer.
Ian Book might not be great in the pros.
Ian Book my man was helped a lot by Kyron Williams, that offensive line, those receivers. I think
That's fair.
Jaden has less around him. The receiving core is fantastic, but the run game struggling. The offensive line is struggling as you've pointed out. I think that 100%. I totally agree with you. He can't be their offensive production on the ground. He just can't be all of it. They need to get other dudes rolling. That offensive line needs to nut up and make some plays and actually clear some lanes, because the crap that we watched against Florida State was troublesome. Like the lack of ability to run the ball was why Jaden Daniels struggled. He's not a guy who can take over a game on every single level. He's just not. But he's an athlete who can move and have those chunk plays. If you're asking him to do too much, he's going to make those mistakes. He's going to press too much. He's going to do too much.
How aggravating do you think it's for Brian Kelly that they're struggling in the running game?
Extremely, because that's the identity that Brian Kelly has always built. He has always had big, strong running backs paired with, fast, twitchy guys. He has always had really good running back tandems. Not necessarily guys that have had long-term NFL careers, but guys that have been
great
super
college
productive.
Players.
Yes. And he's had so many to rotate between that it has led to production. And I think it's less to do with the running back talent and just more to do with the offensive line. I think that's where it comes down to.
I mean, Quentin Nelson is probably the best offensive guard that I've ever seen in person. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's the best. And I agree. The offensive line that he had. And look, Joe, the day that he was hired, the day that Brian Kelly was hired, I said this, and I think it bodes true. If he can bring the Notre Dame offensive line philosophy with what Louisiana produces on the outside, such as Kayshon Boutte, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Odell Beckham, the list goes on and on. LSU and Louisiana produce, bro, you can go, Joe, I can go in a 10-mile radius from the studio and find a very electric 4-star recruit. And I'm talking about just that can play at LSU, that probably runs a sub 4.4. My question has always been, if Brian Kelly brings the offensive lines that he had at Notre Dame to LSU, it's going to be a problem for a lot of people, because if you can run the football and you got guys like Kayshon on the outside, it's a problem. Now, he is building that offensive line. He's got a true freshman in Will Campbell. So Lance Hurd, a 5-star offensive tackle. I'm really high on Brian Kelly, and I know that's hard for Notre Dame fans to hear, but you have to understand who we had running the program literally last season.
The only thing is I worry a little bit about the development of those offensive linemen, because you're getting really good recruits, but you look at Notre Dame and their time when they produced the best guys, it was because of Henry Hestead, who developed those guys.
Who, by the way, is the best offensive line coach in the country.
And the Chicago Bears pulling him away was one of the most devastating things that I witnessed. And if you look at those offensive line groups when he wasn't there, they struggled. they had some issues in some of those seasons. So that development part is the biggest question mark. Is like, can Kelly and that coaching staff to properly develop those guys? I'm sure he can, and he's got the talent to, and he's recruiting the same level of talent that they were recruiting to Notre Dame as offensive linemen. Like, they were getting 5 stars every year, and that's where Ronnie Stanley and Blake Fisher and Quentin Nelson came from. But it's just that development part. Offensive line, I think, and I'm sure you can agree, is one of those positions where development is crucial, because you get a big, fat, strong kid who has no idea what he's doing, no technique. Zion Nelson from Miami, who we're going to see today, is a good example of that. Kid's big, strong kid, fluid mover, got no technique for the life of him, and he's going to lose his draft stock because of it.
I've heard Harvey speak a lot. Joe, you know that it's just my thing to watch offensive line play and talk offensive line play. It's my thing. Number one, he's the best in the country. And I've got to be honest, I was honestly shocked that Brian Kelly didn't do more to get him down here. The point is, look, the way that they run zone reads, the way that they run the zone blocking schemes is legitimately NFL caliber. Okay. It's what we ran. It's what a lot of people run that have really dynamic offensive lines. So we'll see. But I do got some news before we get to Matt McGloin here from Scranton. Look, I hope this guy, I hope Matt doesn't just like leave the stream. I am enamored that he is from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Okay. Like, like that's what she said. I'm probably going to say that like 45 times in this stream. Okay. I will say this. We do have some news out of Georgia. So stand by. An SEC coach just texted me through our show, and I'm trying to get this confirmed. I'm being told that Eric Gilbert, the tight end at Georgia, did not make the trip to South Carolina. I don't know what's going on here, okay? But I just got a text. So we'll see how this is going to transpire. But look, I'm convinced at this point, Eric Gilbert's not a real person. We've had him here at LSU.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on here. You can't fight with coaches, which was what happened a season ago. So we'll see. All right, Joe, let's do this. We got Matt McGloin. I'm really fired up for this one. We're going to talk some Penn State, Auburn next. But let's do this. Let's pay these bills. Let's talk about our good friends over at Gramco, guys. We return in 1 minute to talk Penn State. We are Penn State, or is that we are Marshall?
No, it's we are Penn State's their slogan too.
Oh, okay. I was just trying to rub it, the salt in the wound from Notre Dame losing to.
I see. I'm not smart enough to pick up on that, and I wish you didn't.
Matthew McConaughey came to the sidelines last week. You got beat by Matthew McConaughey as their head coach. Regardless, let's talk about good friends over at Gramco, guys. We return in 1 minute with Matt McGloin. Guys, I've got to talk to you about our good friends over at Gramco. They are the Delta 8 company based out of the state of Florida. They're founded by college football junkies just like you and I am not sure if you're familiar with Delta 8, but you need to be. Gramco is the absolute leader in this field, and they have phenomenal products that I just need to tell you about. First off is the Wake and Bake coffee that is absolutely spectacular. The gummies are as well, as they're the best in the market. So go to thegramco.com right now and use the promo code AYS25. That's thegramco.com, AYS25 promo code to get 25% off of your order. Jump on this fast, as it is perfect for holidays, anniversaries, and everyday use. Gramco is hemp-derived and completely legal inside of the state of Louisiana. No medical card is needed, and shipping is very discreet. You must be 21 years older to order. Again, that's thegramco.com. Use that promo code AYS25. Okay, we are joined here by former Penn State quarterback Matt McGloin. Matt, what's going on, man?
Hey, how you guys doing? I appreciate you having me on the show.
Well, I do got to ask you this, and Joe's probably going to get mad at me. The whole Bleav network's going to get mad at me, but I got to ask you. Scranton, Pennsylvania. Do you work at the paper company? That's what we all want to know.
What, are you an Office fan?
Am I? I mean, dude, look, we're sitting here and we're redoing the studio. I got an Office poster right here, signed.
Yeah.
Okay, by the cast. Like that's
one of the things I tell everybody, when you see Alfredo's or the Froggy 101 sticker, or a lot of the places they talk about, those are all real places. They're not made up. So that's what makes that show so great. That's what makes it authentic. And yeah, man, we're damn proud here in Scranton, the greater Scranton area, to to have the office now be a part of who we are.
Let me ask you this: is Pam still not able to go to Applebee's?
I don't know. It's a no. It's a like it's a great. Like I said, it's a great show. It's a fun show, and that's like I was just saying. That's one of the better parts about it is when they actually bring up places in the area that I've been to before. I've eaten at before. So that's what's fun about it.
Well, let's get to Penn State and Auburn. Let me ask you this, Matt. There has been a complete Penn State takeover in Auburn. This team has a lot of momentum riding with James Franklin. How are you feeling about this game to start off here in the SEC country?
Well, they shouldn't have a problem winning this football game today. I really feel that after having the opportunity, to watch Penn State over the past 2 weeks, to be able to break the team down offensively and defensively, and then having the opportunity to watch Auburn break that game down and see what they did against San Jose State. I mean, the only matchup that could be difficult for Penn State is this offensive line versus the defensive ends and linebackers of Auburn. But I feel like Penn State has the strength in every other matchup on this field this afternoon, and I think when I look at what's going to win this game for Penn State it's clear. It's the ability to stop the run, to stop Hunter, to stop Bigsby, to stop Ashford. Auburn struggles to throw the football with both quarterbacks. Penn State, one of the better secondaries, not just in the Big Ten, but in America. So if it's me and I'm Manny Diaz, I play less split safety zone. I play less too high than I have the first 2 weeks. I put 8 guys in the box. I try to stop the run. And if you're Auburn, you're forced to throw the football. And if you throw it and you throw it well and you beat us, and then you deserve to beat us. By throwing the football. But that's what Auburn has to do to win. They have to throw the ball. They have to take advantage of one-on-one matchups because I believe Penn State is going to do everything they can to stop the run today at 3:30.
Yeah, Finley's looked terrible. And on the flip side of things, though, like Clifford, we know who he is. He's been around for so long. It feels like the passing attack for Penn State has kind of struggled to get going a little bit here. And I had expectations that like Parker Washington was going to pop off and have a really good season. Is there still any worry that this passing offense for Penn State might be a little bit behind, or like maybe it's today a day that they get their legs underneath them?
It's been inconsistent for sure, but I kind of feel like that's been the story of this Penn State offense, even going back to the beginning of last year, is the inconsistency, on the offensive side of the ball in the run game and the pass game. I mean, you look at the Purdue game, that's the game they should have lost, or excuse me, they should have lost that game. Purdue should have won that football game. And right. If I'm Penn State, I wouldn't want to play Purdue in the middle of the year or late in the year. Even Purdue's going to be a tough team to beat as the season goes on. In fact, I think, maybe either Minnesota, but I think Purdue has a great chance to win the West there. But what I saw from week 1 to week 2, and specifically in week 2, they made it a point to get the ball to Parker Washington early, at least get the ball in his hands, let him get a catch. Mitchell Tinsley early and get the tight ends involved early. They tried to do that in week 2, and that's what they need to do here at 3:30 today. When you plan your chart, your first plays, 12, 15, 20, I'm not sure what Mike Yurcich does, but you have your plays, your early play calls. Parker Washington needs to be a part of it. Mitchell Tinsley needs to be a part of it, and this tight end group needs to be a part of it. These guys need to see the ball early on the road to be able to settle in, to get comfortable, and then you go play from there. But Sean Clifford's got to bring it, especially since Penn State fans have gotten a taste of what Drew Allar can do.
Man, I'm a really big X's and O's guy. That's just, how I function, how I look at games. I'm not going to go there, though. I think you mentioned something earlier with Penn State is why I think they're going to win. They've been tested on the road already this season. I mean, Purdue's just such a good game. Now, look, when you go into Auburn, it's a loud environment, but Penn State's bringing their people too. Do you think that game against Purdue can help this team moving forward to go into here in Alabama and just really just make a statement? And a win today, does that make I don't know if this is a great question, but would this just be a stamp for James Franklin to go in here? And, like, how big would a win today be for him is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, to get to 3-0, if they win today, they have a very good chance of getting to 5-0 before the bye week. But is this an Auburn team we've seen in years past? No, it's not, but it still has the name recognition. It's still the SEC. It's still a big win on the road. And Bleav, you're absolutely correct when you say, Penn State playing in that environment, playing that type of crowd and being able to handle it. I'd be more nervous for them if they hadn't played week 1 on a Thursday night at Purdue at Ross-Ade Stadium, because that place was rocking. And they looked calm. They looked comfortable. There wasn't a lack of communication. They were fine when it came to their cadence. They understood what they were doing. And that's where the experience of Sean Clifford is going to be able to take over. It's handling a hostile environment, playing on the road in a tough atmosphere. So I think they'll be fine there. I think they've learned how to be able to handle that in week 1. So they have the advantage there, I think. Now, scoring early for them is going to be crucial to even quiet that crowd even more. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, we're going to get a pretty good sense of how this game is going to shape out, at least I think, through 1 quarter of play. We'll find out what teams are trying to do game plan-wise early on.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, the one thing I want to ask, I've been really impressed by this run game, conversely, compared to what the passing attack has done. Singleton looks really freaking good. And I always kind of hear these little murmurs. Everyone's like, oh, he's the next Saquon here at Penn State, which might be a little bit aggressive. What are your thoughts on Singleton? Because he had a really freaking good game last week.
Yeah, well, let's pump the brakes on that. Let's not put him in the Penn State running back Hall of Fame just yet.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, he's certainly shown flashes of how good he can be. And last week, what we saw against Ohio was him just flat out being better than everybody else. Right? He gets to the outside. There's nobody in the stadium that's going to catch him. The offensive line. Because, look, they go hand in hand, this run game, this offensive line, these running backs, these offensive lines, and especially over the past year or so at Penn State, you can't bring up the one without mentioning the other. Now, the offensive line has shown signs of getting better. It has been encouraging, and last week was a start. But they still have a ton of problems getting to the second level. They have a ton of problems blocking linebackers. Tight ends don't want to block at Penn State for some reason.
That's weird for Penn State. Like, that's like the opposite of what we're used to.
They don't want to block. And for how good they are in the pass game, and James Franklin has even mentioned, this is one of the better tight end groups in all of America. I agree with that when it comes to throwing the football and these tight ends with their route running ability. But they're one of the worst blocking tight end groups in the Big Ten. So if Penn State wants to continue to get better against good football teams, against good run-stopping football teams, these tight ends, these offensive lines, they have to work together at the point of contact, and then they have to be able to push and get to the second level and find guys in the run game. I mean, again, last week what we saw was just Nick Singleton making plays, getting the outside and outrunning everybody. That's what it was, which is certainly encouraging. But at some point in time, these guys are going to have to hold blocks and sustain blocks.
Yeah, after what Saquon Barkley did last week, and leading his team to a win, I don't think that there's anybody. I don't know. There's a lot of people who think he could be the all-around best back in the league. Right, not much less, Penn State's history. Matt McGloin joining us. Matt, let me flip it on here because we're talking a lot of things that I think that you're right on that Penn State is going to be able to capitalize on. I don't have any faith in Auburn. If I asked you though, I worry about Penn State against Auburn here. Is there one glaring weakness? I know you talked about some of them, but is there just one that you can't when the game kicks off that you're looking at like? All right, if Penn State starts winning here, it's over.
Yeah, look, the one thing I look at, and I mentioned it earlier, is that D-line versus the O-line, specifically those stand-up DNs, those linebackers pressuring the quarterback, pressuring those tackles, right? Will there be time to throw the football? If they can't run it, being backed up in the 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, being around that range, getting behind the sticks and forcing Sean Clifford to throw the ball and to really have to work for 3rd downs. I can see it getting difficult in that sense if Auburn is able to keep them in 3rd and long and 3rd and tough situations. That's where I can see it getting difficult for Penn State. But, if they play fast, if they get out to a good start, if they use their wide receivers out on the outside and then mix in the run early on and try to spread out this Auburn defense and be able to slow down those pass rushers. There's nothing worse for a pass rusher than when a quarterback's getting the football out of his hand quick. These guys are using so much energy to pass rush, go, go, go. and then they look and the ball's out of his hand, right? Get the ball out of his hand. Don't hold on to it until you have to, right? There's going to be moments on those third downs where he's going to have to take one to get one, right? But don't make it easy on this pass rush of this Auburn defense.
One last question I got for you here, Matt. Joey Porter Jr., who is been fantastic. I think he had like 6 pass breakups in that first game against Purdue or something crazy like that. Was that like an expectation that he was going to emerge as like a big defensive back for this team? It felt like he kind of came out of nowhere a little bit.
I think, I mean, look, he's a guy where he walks on the field as a freshman and you think to yourself, like, this is what a defensive back looks like. Like, this is what a cornerback looks like. This guy right here. I mean, he's a first-round guy. Let's be honest. He'd be a first-round draft pick after this year. That's how good he is. That's how smart he is. That's how well this kid plays the game. So for all, we mentioned the Auburn quarterbacks early on in this episode here. Like, if they're going to throw the football, don't test him.
Mm-hmm.
Be smart, right? They've already struggled to throw the football. Don't be stubborn in a way where it's like, we're out to make a point. We're going to go at this guy. Like, don't do that. Johnny Dixon has struggled in pass coverage for Penn State. Daquan Hardy has struggled at times in pass coverage for Penn State. Keaton Ellis has struggled in pass coverage at times for Penn State. Go at those guys. If they're going to stop the run, find those matchups and try to expose those matchups on the Penn State defense.
You know what's funny is you say that, Matt. Joel Klatt in that Purdue game said, "Stop throwing it in his general direction," which is probably the best you can get. Stop throwing it in his general direction. I thought that was great, Matt. Thank you so much for joining us, man. Have a great day. Hail State. Go, we are Penn State, all that good stuff. Tell everybody where they can follow all your stuff, brother.
Do some stuff for Big Ten Network. I work for SiriusXM, ESPNU, Big Ten Radio as well, and then I'm the host of the Paydirt podcast, which is a Penn State football show. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you listen to your podcasts.
Well, Matt, I almost wore, the Bleav McGloin shirt, but they said they didn't have it in extra sexy, so they didn't have
no lineman sizes.
Lineman size. I mean, look, dude, I'm 6'4" and 300. You gotta give you center, Matt. You gotta get him some swag bags, but we'll get one. Thank you so much for joining us, brother.
Anytime, guys. Thanks.
All right, that's Matt McGloin. Let's do this. Joe, are you ready to get drunk?
Oh, hell yes, I am.
Are you ready to get wasted? Now, listen, you challenged my ass. I hadn't said this. You challenged my ass to you want to do a beer chugging competition? Because I'm going to tell you, it's going to get
I know I'm going to lose. I know I'm going to lose, Blake. I know I'm going to lose, but I'm not soft, and I got to at least come in, with some oomph here. I got to with some gusto.
Here's the truth. I'm so worried now about losing after the shit I just talked to you that I don't know what
You're
I'm
a lineman. You're gonna kick. Let's be realistic. My
beers.
roommates.
I drank beers coming out of the womb.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's gonna go down like water.
Let's do this. We're gonna get to Jenna Dolson. We gotta get some drinks, man. I gotta go get my drinks. I gotta go get my beers and all my stuff. But let's do this. Let's pay these bills very quickly. Let's talk again about our good friends over at BetOnline.ag and our good friends over at GM Varno & Sons. Guys, we return in 1 minute and 15 seconds. Let's go get some drinks, dude. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code Bleav50, that's Bleav50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. With over 65 years of experience, nobody is better equipped to servicing your vehicle than GM Varno & Sons. RV repair, big rig overhauls, motorhome chassis, routine maintenance, tire rotations, tire sales. No job is too big or too small over at GM. If you break down the side of the road in the greater Baton Rouge area, they will come and get you. And the best thing about that is that they can come and get you, and then they can bring your vehicle back to their shop and start the repairs right then. Again, GM Varno & Sons, go see them over at 2500 Fuller Boulevard. Give them a call at 225-664-9992. 225-664-9902. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino sent you on by. Okay, we are joined here again by our good friend Jenna Diddleson. Jenna, what's happening, boo?
What's up, guys?
Well, listen, I got to tell you, I woke up this morning. I went and ran a mile. I was physically getting prepared for this ass whooping I'm about to give Joe in this beer chugging competition. I just got to let you know.
Joe, I just feel like you really want, like, because
punishment.
You didn't get the ass tattoo, I just feel like you want punishment right now. Like,
Not-
that's
not-
how I feel.
Not punishment, but I'm competitive. This is why the last bet took place and why I continue to put myself in questionable situations.
Okay.
Very questionable.
Do you want to do this chugging? Jenna, should we do the chugging competition? I got 2 beers here.
Okay. Oh, I did. Okay.
I don't have Miller Lite, by
way.
the way. You're going to hate me for what I brought.
Do you have Bud
What do
Light?
you bring?
I got one of these.
What the fuck is that?
Oh my God.
Sorry.
I got
what
it.
is that?
I'm a long snapper, very concerned about my figure. I have
Listen, everyone on this stream, anytime Joe throughout the entire football season talks about being a long snapper, everyone
take a
must
shot.
drink.
Yeah,
Okay, take a shot.
What?
Now-
This is the same. This is 12 fluid ounces, though. It's the same size as a normal beer.
All right.
All right,
Okay, so
Jenna,
am
go
I?
ahead. Let's do this thing.
Let's
Joe,
let's
you're off
just
the hook.
let's make this drink. Okay, so we're making a lunchbox, and to me, I love this. It reminds me of my one buddy who's went to U of I, and this was all he drank during football season. So we're using our amaretto again, all right, and we're gonna do 1.5 ounces. Pour it into your glass or your red Solo cup, whatever you'd like. It's totally.
Hey, I got a red Solo cup.
You can do that. I'm here for that. Next, we're going to take some orange juice, because it's like the morning and we need to wake up. So we're going to wake up with some orange juice. You're going to do 2 ounces.
God, I am not measuring this properly.
I know you're not, Joe, but remember, less is more, okay?
I have my Howard University beer mug, by the way, is what I'm
Good.
using.
Good Lord. Okay. And then take your can of beer or, Joe's, whatever Joe's drinking.
Bud Light next.
It's
Sure.
Spritzers.
I
He
can't.
drinks
I can't.
No,
with you.
it's a beer. It's a beer, but it's just like the zero
no,
carb
guys.
one because
Don't throw up.
it's
Okay.
this is beer. Super crisp light beer.
LA's got the best of you, Joe.
Yeah, it sadly has.
All right. And then
Alright.
pour your beer. But guys, remember, pour it on the side. The reason why you do that is if you pour it straight on, it just gets really foamy and then it's just a lot of carbonation and you're
Is it the whole beer?
all the way to the top.
Okay. I think I put too much orange juice in.
Okay. Well, it happens.
All right. This looks great. I'm freaking pumped. Jenna. Cheers, boo.
Cheers,
ready,
guys.
Joe?
Okay, so am I timing you guys chugging this? Okay, they're just gonna go. All right, let's see. Joe's really going at it, but so is Blake. God, I think this one might be a little bit closer than we think, guys. Who's gonna win? I think Blake has it. Blake has it. Winner,
Oh.
chicken dinner.
See, wait. That was bullshit. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse in here. You started chugging. There was no countdown. I looked over. I was taking a sip.
If
I
you're not
looked
trying to
over and you were
cheat- if
chugging.
you're not cheating, you're not winning, Joe.
Oh, that's delicious. By the way, Jenna.
First off,
Thank
Jenna,
you.
I'm about to make me another one.
Do it. It's so easy. 3 ingredients. You have them in your house,
It's like a
The only-
PB&J.
right? Ooh. Ooh.
It kind of
It's
is,
like
dude.
a
You know
PB&J.
what? Next week, I've actually made a PB&J shot. I'll make a
Oh.
PB&J drink next week.
Oh my
Which
God.
Jenna, I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep asking every single that
Joe, they
comment.
said you had your pinky out.
It wasn't intentional. My hand doesn't fit in the fucking. Sorry, it doesn't fit in the damn thing. My hand's
Wait,
too
do you
big.
know do you know the proper way to hold a Stein, Joe?
Oh, like this? Yeah.
No. Put the pinky underneath the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
Again, I wasn't prepared to chug. I was just like loosely holding it, and then I look over at Blake downing hit. I would have smoked you if this was if there was a countdown, if there was a lineup, like an actual chugging competition.
Jenna, what do you think about this? Why am I getting ridiculed here? I didn't do anything wrong.
I
You
think you're
cheated.
getting ridiculed because you won and Joe lost the
That's
bet.
true.
And now he needs to get the ass tattoo.
Oh,
I'm not getting an ass tattoo.
I'm kidding. That's aggressive. We actually never put anything down on the line. But
what would the ass tattoo have been though? Would it have been a picture of my face, or like?
Oh God, no.
Why?
I would have done the amaretto logo. That would have been like a nice little tattoo.
you can get a flower. You can get a flower. There's a flower on it. That's what I'm talking about. There's a flower on the bottle.
I thought there was a shot at me because I'm drinking light beer.
But you think that, so.
Jenna, what's been going on, boo? How's things been going? This drink is fantastic, by the way.
Thank you. I had a wedding last night, so I'm not gonna lie. I was like really nervous about waking up today to have to drink after drinking a bunch of tequila yesterday and champagne. So I'm like slightly shaking, but I'm here for the cause. I'm here for you guys. And I'm doing great right now. So,
Jenna, I gotta tell you, I don't know if I texted you this or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your sister in the video from this week who said, I hate people that don't quote some of it. So take us through that again. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. So Bar Talk had 100 episodes, a little over like maybe a month, 2 months ago. And I just wanted to resurface an old video. And my younger sister, Taylor, I had all my siblings on the podcast for my 100 episode. And she said, okay, I'm going to ask you a would you rather question. And I said, okay. And she goes, well, my biggest pet peeve is when people like don't give credit where credit's due. So I just want you to know that like I didn't come up with it. I got it off the internet. So people give credit to the internet.
That's so great. And let me tell you something. Your accent's not like heavy. Hers is like heavy. Like,
well, to be fair though, Blake, when Jenna's on camera, you do a really good job of hiding the accent. When we're in meetings and production meetings,
it comes out.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not the same person that's on those videos. The way that you talk.
I know.
Hilarious.
Do you like change your voice during the episodes or
I think sometimes when I think everyone who does anything like this, like you get a little you're yourself, but you try to, tame. I try to tame the voice a little bit.
Right.
But when I'm drinking,
here's the thing. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
It's like a staple, like we're about to go to the park. Like I don't know, I can't do it. I mean,
that's a
Boston.
That's a Boston accent. Like, can we go to the park? Someone's got their khakis.
When Jim Krasinski did the Smart Pack, I still think it's the best Super Bowl commercial of all time.
I don't remember this one.
Yeah, Jim, but he's from Boston. All right, I do got to ask you this.
Yeah, what's up,
Jenna? What about them? How about them Chicago Bears, babe? I mean, like, what's going on here? We actually can win a game. I mean, what? I mean, is Justin Fields the savior of the Bears here?
I think it's way too early to make any predictions because of the following. I'm going to put it this way: one, the weather worked in our favor. Okay, as crazy as that sounds,
wasn't it? Like it
was monsooning. It was absolutely monsooning. That at the end of the game, you couldn't see the lines. That Fox had to make them black on TV so people could see the lines because of how badly it was raining.
Oh my God! I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. It got that bad.
It was that bad, even to the point where I was watching the game at the bar and I look outside and I was like, oh wow, it's pouring. I think San Francisco is more of a disaster than people are like actually talking about.
I agree.
Go forward again because I don't
look at.
I'm sorry, but like you had Jimmy Garoppolo who like let you do a Super Bowl, and then you're like, yeah, we paid you a lot of money, but we're just gonna leave you on the back because we like kind of like this guy, and I just think that causes a lot of friction in a locker room.
Jimmy G is so limited though, and like keeping Jimmy G was stupid. Like keeping him around was really stupid.
This whole thing is stupid, but I think all of that played into the fact that I don't think the 49ers were ready. I think the Bears were like sneakily ready to come in. I'm still
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah, like I'm still not fully sold because as a Bears fan, I protect my heart. I've been disappointed many times with the McCaskies. However, I am like really curious to see what Sunday night is going to be like against Green Bay because Green Bay was such
Aaron
a disaster.
Rodgers is in trouble. He's in trouble.
Aaron Rodgers is in trouble, but Aaron Rodgers like absolutely despises Chicago and hates the Bears so much that I think he's going to pull something out of his rear end to be like, no, we're going to come out and like absolutely murder you guys. So
well, I will say this.
I don't know.
Big Cat from Barstool.
Yeah.
I think, look, Aaron can eat those shrooms all he wants to. He can grow his hair out. He can look like Nicolas Cage from what's the movie Con Air.
Yeah,
Okay, he
something
can
like
show
that.
up
Yeah,
like that. But there's one thing about Aaron. He's a great freaking quarterback. Okay, I mean, like he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's going to be an interesting game. Jenna, what do you have back there by your Chicago White Sox?
This?
Is that Screwball?
No, so this is so I'm a big whiskey gal. I love bourbon. I love whiskey. I'm a
Me
big
and
dark
you are
liquor
best
person.
friends.
I know.
Look,
Bleav,
if
we've already known
MySpace-
this.
If MySpace were still a thing, me and you would be
Top
well. I'm going to give you number 3.
8. Wow.
I got to go Benjamin. I got to go my son. I got to
That's
go
fair.
Megan. You'd be number 3.
Wow, I feel so honored. Thank you so much.
Are you
You're-
joking or are you being serious?
You're bumping me out of here. What do you do? What am I
Yeah,
doing?
you're
I'll
bumped
make
out. You're bumped out for the time being. You didn't beat me in a chugging competition. You're supposed to be from the
cheated.
Midwest.
You cheated.
All right,
I'm
next
from
week.
Louisiana, dude.
Next week we'll chug. Next week I'm gonna do a countdown. I will have a timer. Okay, that's what we're gonna do.
Let's
I'm
chug
not going to do
liquor.
it, Gina, because here's the truth: winners get to choose. I will choose.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay.
So this bottle is Brothers Bond bourbon, and I don't know if either of you two were ever fans of the Vampire Diaries when it was on the CW about a decade ago. Okay.
Actually,
So-
believe it or not,
Oh my God, are you about to?
No, it was a great
I'm about to be serious here. They shot a lot of I think it was Vampire Diaries in New Orleans.
They filmed the originals in New Orleans, which was the spinoff show.
Okay, the originals. Okay.
Yes, which again, like same universe.
His name was Klaus in the
Oh
show.
my God, what a sexy vampire. Anyways,
Hey,
he is,
I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
The
You're fine.
nicest human being you'll ever meet in your life. So
Oh,
we
that's
did
amazing.
we got to hang out with him in New
Yeah.
Orleans. The nicest dude you'll ever meet. Like, I was surprised. Be honest, but it was
my
shot in
God.
New Orleans, the originals.
Yeah, the originals was shot in New Orleans. The main brothers in the Vampire Diaries, they're brothers on the show. They drank bourbon on the show. They became like best friends in real life that they decided to learn the process of bourbon making. So they perfected this, and my liquor lady got me 3 signed bottles. So these are the bottles from the
Wow.
actors, and I have another one down here that's almost done, which I'll probably finish later today.
Is that one signed?
No, this one, no, I'm not opening up the signed
No.
one, Joe's. Absolutely
Okay.
not. No.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
No,
Just
but
checking.
this one we
What's
have about
this-
like this
What's it
much
called
left.
again?
Brothers Bond bourbon. And I was actually, so I bought it when I knew that they were coming out with it. And I was like, I'll spend, I think it was like maybe like $40. I was like, I'll spend $40 and see if it's any good. And I was like, this is great. And
Is
it was
it really?
it was so great. It made me call my ex the one day. So it's doing something right. So anyways,
That's
was
my
one.
problem with bourbon is it always leads to very questionable decisions. I love bourbon too, but
I love bourbon. Yeah.
It's probably my number one.
You guys,
Kryptonite or number one go
listen,
to.
the worst.
It's on my
thing you
go-to
can do-
because I just drank a light, not even a light beer, a carbless
true.
light beer.
Yeah.
If I drank bourbon, which I did at one point when I was drinking it every time I went out, I was drinking it like twice a week. I was 240 pounds, so I can't do that.
Look, I'm just gonna say this, and it might be the wrong thing. I'm 6'4", 300. I'm gonna drink bourbon. You're gonna get over it. You're gonna get over my weight. I'm
you're
just gonna be
tall.
honest.
It's the same thing with my co-host Sean, who was my roommate in college, is 6'6" and he's 300 pounds, and he can be 300 pounds because he's tall, and girls are like, flock to that. But
Yeah.
I'm 5'11". I gotta look good. Like I can't.
Actually, it's the. I mean, look how big that bicep is right there, dude.
You
Oh,
sound
God
exactly
almighty.
like my roommate.
You and my cousin would get along great, Blake. That's what he does when he goes out.
All right, Jenna, I do have one more. I have one more question for you.
Yes, fire away.
So I've been getting this question a lot on AYS.
Okay.
Is there if there's just like a bourbon, like if I wanted to go spend $100 on a bottle of bourbon,
Okay.
in your opinion, what do I need to go spend it on?
If you are willing to spend that much money on bourbon, I would say you get Whistle Pig.
Mhm.
Okay.
Whistle Pig's
And
great.
I would get the I believe it's the 15 year. So for anyone who doesn't know the process of bourbon. It's going to be more expensive when it's aged longer. When
Right.
it's aged longer, it goes down silky smooth. When the bourbon is aged for only like a year to 5 years, it has that like spice/fire, which some people like, and that's totally fine. But if you want something that's like a super great sipping, I would do Whistle Pig, or I would do Blanton's. But Blanton's is one of those like drinks that it's
Ooh.
such a collectible item now that it's so hard to find. So if you
Yeah, isn't it like you need like a distributor to get Blanton's?
so you can
Yeah,
get a
Chris England
distributor,
even says
or
agrees with Jenna. She says,
Yeah.
he says, Blake, go get.
But it's
Blanton's."
you can't find it at most liquor stores. I've
So what-
looked for it.
So what you do, you do what I call is the Chicago handshake, and you befriend the guy at the liquor store. You ask him how they're doing. How have things been? How's your family? What's going on in your life? Hey, I got a question for you. I'm a big Blanton fan. Do you guys have any that come in? Hey, you know what? My family owns this. I'll slip this to you your way. And what they're gonna do is you exchange phone numbers. They call you when it comes in, because that liquor they do not put on the shelves. They put it in the back, and they put it for people that call. So ask them if they have it, and if not, you befriend the liquor store person.
That's the most Al Capone story I've ever heard.
I'm from Chicago. What do you expect? My family
I
owns a
know.
bar. It's been in my family since 1938. Al Capone's brewery was down the street from my family's bar.
All right, we'll still talk on that. I know we're going long, Joe, but this is too fucking good.
I'm having my drink. I'm chilling. I ain't got nothing to do.
Speak on that, Jenna. So you own a bar. Al Capone was right down the street. Like, tell us about that. 1938.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So my great grandparents opened Shinnick's Pub in 1938 on the corner of 38th and Union. So we're right in the shadows of White Sox Park. And it
So
went.
that's why y'all go to so many games. Like,
That's
y'all
why
right
I go.
there?
I'm literally like, when I say I can sneeze on the stadium, like outside of my house right now. I can sneeze on it. So that's why I am a diehard White Sox fan, and I will never like the Cubs. But anyways, back to Al Capone, back to the bar. So again, it's been in my family forever. And then it became a part of, shout out to Jenna. I'm from Chicago too. Hell yes. Love me some Chicagoans. But anyways, then it became my grandparents.
I want to know if you're a part of the mafia.
Do you know how many times I get that question?
How
And it's
many-
not,
Jen, are you Italian?
I'm not Italian. People
Oh,
look
so
at
you're
my
not.
father. People look at my father and think my father's Italian. When I went to school up in Minnesota, the first question that my teammates asked me and their parents were, are you in the mob? And then they saw my dad and they were like, so your dad's in the mob. So then I started messing around with people and I said, you know what? Actually, I have to run. I got to do a job right now. Do you mind just helping me like drop this body bag off in the river? Like, you guys are stupid. No, I'm not in the mob. I'm Irish. No.
Also, if you were in the mob, you wouldn't tell
You
anyone.
know,
that.
you,
wouldn't
Also,
you
do
no
it.
do
one would
know,
tell.
you
Yeah.
do know that Al Capone started because he was married. No, people don't know this. I hear through the grapevine in this, New Orleans, he was married to an Irish woman to start off.
That doesn't surprise me. Everyone loves a good Irish woman.
Bound chicka wow
Wow,
wow.
wow.
All right, so the bar was in your
But so the bar was my great grandparents. It became my grandparents. When my grandfather, when my grandmother died, my grandfather gave it to his 9 children, which is my mother and her 8 siblings. So they are all owners. And then I work there now along with some other relatives, but I'm the 4th generation. And yeah, 80 plus years in business. It's, we've survived prohibition. We survived a pandemic. The dailies used to come in there. My grandparents, the dailies were actually the OG Mr. Daly bartended at my grandparents' wedding. He was the bartender. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool history to the pub, and Al Capone's brewery was down the street. I don't know if he's actually ever had a drink there, but I gotta believe at some point he had, because that's just the way the
he's had a
neighborhood
drink
works.
there.
Yeah.
Italians don't own nothing that they ain't gonna walk in.
Yeah. So, but no, it's cool, and
So
I love it.
So Jenna, what did me and Joe have to do a show from there? Like, can we go Joe?
Get on a plane.
Wait, Blake, in all seriousness, I have to. I'm flying. I'm going to a Notre Dame game, sadly, to watch them slop around with UNLV, and I am flying into Chicago.
Stop it, Joe. I love
I
this.
am. So Blake,
When's this date?
the 21st of October. Is there an important LSU game that week?
Well, my baby's born the next week. So.
Yeah, you can't come. You can't come. Blake.
That's not important.
I don't know if that's a or not the next week, but the week after. But bro, Megan's so like she's so like she went from not having like the pregnancy belly to like having the pregnancy belly. Like I'm like, hey, babe. She's like, I'm waddling. she keeps waddling everywhere.
We gotta make it happen. We gotta make it happen, though. We can.
Yeah, I want to go.
Yeah.
I want to go.
Yeah, no, come.
You know what would be epic? Is the White Sox going to make the playoffs? Yes or no?
Yeah, it's going to be ugly, but yeah. Are we going to win after the first round? But we're going to make the playoffs, and it's going to be tooth and nail.
Here's the thing. I want to go to Chicago, but I'm scared of Chicago, to be honest with you.
What?
Oh, you'll be fine.
Wait, you live near New Orleans. What are you scared of?
Blake, you live in New Orleans. You're a 6'4",
No, I don't live in no New
man.
Orleans. I don't live in no New Orleans.
Well, you near it.
Yeah, but I live in the country. I ain't going there.
So can I tell you what my secret is? Because I used to like take the public transportation like really often, and there's a lot of crazy people on public transportation. And the secret to being on public transportation as a woman is to be crazier than the craziest person on the train. So I would like twitch and like look at people funny and like lick my mouth, so then no one would come by me. I swear to God, I did. I swear to God.
Jesus.
Listen. I've seen some really weird things on the red line. Okay, I've seen really weird things on the Halsted bus. Okay,
it doesn't. I don't disagree. I 100% believe you.
She goes, I twitch.
I have, and then I've started speaking like Swahili because I'm like, I just don't want to be approached.
Oh God.
My God.
Yeah. So.
By the way, Blake, you know where the national championship is this year?
Glendale, right?
It's in Los Angeles. No, it's not Glendale. It's in Inglewood. It's in SoFi.
Oh,
So our new office that just opened up this week, the Bleav office, is right near there.
I mean,
no. So you're
shit.
No, we're doing when there's going to be an SEC matchup for the national championship game. I think we need to do it from the studio. I'm
down for that.
Well, I will make it happen. I will call Eric Weinberger right now if he's not tuning in.
Eric. No, I'm first class. I'm a first class diva in this thing. Like I'm trimming the beard.
I don't know if I don't even know. I don't think we gave Pac-Man first class tickets when we flew him out for the Super Bowl. I don't know if we might have. We put him in a really nice hotel. We put him in the Beverly Hilton. So I don't know.
Hey,
look, sleep on my couch.
Listen, if you're gonna put me in that kind of a hotel, sit my big ass in the way back. Sit me in I'm just gonna tell you, sit my fat ass back there. All right, Jenna, stay with us. Joe, you want to go ahead and close? We want to go ahead and close this out. Jenna, stay with us.
Yeah, all right, don't leave, Jenna.
All right, we're gonna head on out, guys. It's gonna be a fun day of college football. Y'all have fun. I'm tipsy as shit. I'm gonna be honest. I'm having a good time.
This isn't doing it for me. If I'm making a great drink, but I'm not. It hasn't done anything because I think I'm drinking this very flame drink.
All right, guys. We'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a good morning. Peace out, Girl Scouts.